great studio.
I'm sure I've heard that before.
Deja vu.
I'm sorry we're a little bit late because I think we've had some technical issues to go live, but it's 1:05. We're going to be going to 3:05 today. Welcome to the 6th episode of The Blueprint. Now and again, we throw a curveball and we go back to the original days.
Way back.
88, 89, what an amazing time that was. But we're going to go back before that to the soul, rare groove, jazz and disco days, I should say disco Dave.
Disco Dave.
And this guy is just legendary. He's one of my heroes, one of my mentors, one of the pioneers of house music. If you used to go Heaven, Land of Oz and Spectrum, he was a demigod up there playing music, and people would flock from around the world to come to listen to the music. It was the centre of what was happening that Paul Oakenfold put that night together.
Yeah.
And also, I was 16 years old with my good friend Johnny Holmes, who's RIP, who's passed away now, but that was part of Mangled and Smelly's lot. You played for them.
Yes.
In Colchester.
With you,
yeah, and at the Tarn House, and also that was for me the opening of where we are today. Because if there wasn't these guys, there'd be no us, and there'd be no digital DJs who are out there today. And that's the truth of it. That's the raw of it. That's the bones of the whole thing. And if it wasn't for you guys buying those records, playing those records, and myself and Mickey Finn running
and
up,
LSD
and LSD, coming up into Heaven and asking, "What the hell's this record?" Without trying to be annoying. And this guy, you've played to thousands of people.
Yeah.
First of all, Colin Hudd, welcome.
Thank you for the invite, Ray. No, thank you. I mean, this is lovely. I mean, this is really category A.
I think we're gonna name check a lot of people today.
Yeah.
But I think for me personally, I've had 2 or 3 good bites at the apple because I came from analog, where you would have come from 8-track. On reel to reel 8-track, then DAT, and then from DAT, it was dub plates and then records, and then we went to CDs, and that was the beginning of the digital era
when it all changed.
Yeah, but for us, I think, like going back to those days, the early days, there was no social media.
No.
You couldn't really see your idols or your heroes play because you were just up in that cage, and people would clap from the back to the front. I remember to show their appreciation. I mean, I remember when you dropped tracks like Strings of Life, and how did that make you feel?
Do you know there's Dave Durrell? Did Pump Up the Volume. Yeah. Do you know some people put what's your first name check? People put what's your greatest memory, and he always puts up Colin Hudd chopping in, because I had this thing, with 2 records. Sometimes I buy 2 records because I don't even recall. You play 2 records. Primarily, what it was for, you play them both at the same time. You get this flanging phasing effect, and why have I licked my finger? Because I'm just about to touch the vinyl. So you can push it in and out of phase, and you get this you can do it electronically now with the buttons but you could do that, and you could play that sound. But of course, you could just pull it back a little bit and get it a beat behind, and you could so dun 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 dun. So I dragged out the intro of dum 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 dum, Strings of Life, the intro of the strings before it kicked in, so people didn't know what was going to happen. And I did it on that. There was also Alternate made a record from me doing it. Dum 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 dum. So I just drag it out like that. By the time that finished, I got the other one back. Stone me, they had a record out for a couple of months. Now I'm thinking, I wish I'd, but. So that's what I did. But Dave Durrell put that down. It was a moment of he remembers in house music of being in Spectrum or Land of Oz.
And how did that happen? You told me Oki
what happened was Paul and I had been friends for a long time. He was doing promotions for Power Promotions. He worked for Def Jam, taking PAs around and everything. We both love music. We both playing new music. We should go around each other's house and play music. And I put him in. I'd had him working at Flicks. He took over from Robbie Vincent. Found out him and Pete Tong doing a new romantic kind of indie night on a Thursday. So he did that for a while, and that fizzled out. And but I was buying a lot of. Because I mix, I didn't like the hip hop stuff, NWA and all that. Mantronics, some of those real disco orientated hip hop thing I could go for, but the likes of NWA, I just couldn't get it. And a lot of them, Tongy, Oki, Nicky, they were all into the hip hop. But I was going to Groove Records, and this house stuff started coming through, in probably '86. And I loved the tempo of it. I've always loved fast disco music, bordering on gaze, some of it, and gaze, some of it, sort of high energy, fast. Well, the house music, because it's about generally 124, so I could introduce it into the crowd at Flicks, where it was my residency. And of course, if people are doing that, and you bring another tune in, they're doing that, after a while they go, actually, I don't know this, and they might walk, and then you come back with another tune to recover it, something they know. So I was introducing my house music in and playing it. And there's actually things up on my Mixcloud account of me dropping the house tunes, in '86. But as I say, I wasn't particularly into the hip-hop. And then Paul come round once, I think it must have been about '88, and I played him... we used to play each other music, I remember going around his once and even playing me drum and bass, and one of the guys that was instrumental in the drum and bass, when you sort of hear bits and you think, yeah, that's interesting, that's something new coming up. So we'd always be sort of playing each other different music and seeing what we thought about it. And he came around and I was playing him all this stuff. I was going, look, there's this one, this one, this one. And yeah, that was that. Then, of course, what unbeknown to me, him and a few others had gone to Ibiza, I think that year. So anyhow, one day I was sitting indoors and he phoned me up and he went, we've got a gig for you tonight. I was like, yeah, all right. So he said, yeah, I said, it's Monday. He went, yes, all right. He said, just be there at 10 o'clock. It's at Heaven. I said, what do you want me to play? He went, all that housey stuff you was playing me. He went, but don't talk. I went, what, not talking? He went, no, don't say a word. Just mix it. I went, all right. So I filled up this box and I'm thinking, this is the easiest gig in the world. Because, all right, one of the flicks always be, this Luther Vandross, that was blah, blah, blah. So the thought of just mixing and not talking was, don't get easy in that. Just play records. So then I've gone in there, I've got all these records I wanted to play. I'm on for 2 hours. I thought, so I looked down, after 10 o'clock, I looked down, because I walked in, I'm thinking Monday night, I walked in, it's what Paul said, it's going to hit you like a train. Place was rammed. I was like, bloody hell. So I've gone up, first record I played, like 10 minutes in, I've looked down, the floor's mobbed. And I was like, all these new tunes, like bang, bang. And I was on the crossfader, bang, bang. I thought, my thing then was like, play as many records as you can in that 2 hours. And I remember Paul coming up to me at about 11 o'clock, he went, cool, why don't you get him going a bit then? Like laughing. I was like, yeah. So that was that.
How long was you resident there for?
I wasn't resident on... He called me that first time because Johnny Walker was resident with him. One of the guys had gone to Ibiza with him. And I was only doing odd Mondays. But then he asked me and Trevor to do Spectrum in Manchester. Can you imagine? It's like they've got Hacienda and everything. And we've gone up there on a Monday night, me, Trevor and Barry from the door, doing house, talking about Colton and Newcastle and charging them to go into a house night on a Monday night up there, Spectrum. So we were doing that. We were notoriously always late because we'd be Trevor.
He's always late. Shouting out Trevor Funk, by the way. Yeah, I'll tell you what, just whilst we're live, Dorian, I quite like the old Facebook one, because that one I've got to look at the side and look at where it's coming from, YouTube. Lots of people are involved right now at the moment, but if you could get back, we'll see some comments coming up, because we might even take some questions. But right now, this is the legendary Colin Hudd on the blueprint. I'm so gassed and happy that he's here. Also, Colin's done the foreword of my book, which I
haven't seen yet.
You actually haven't. You actually haven't. But I was very inspired by you. But I don't want to even jump into that yet, because there's a lot of history.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about Flicks, also like all the other clubs that you played, because you were a soul DJ, right?
Yeah. So look, this started off in the 70s, and it was like weekly taverns. Weekly taverns used to have go-go dancers, which is a girl dancing half naked, which like having ministry, podium dance. But it was girls dancing, all of this, go-go dancers, and we used to go to a place. It was the Harrow Inn, I think, on the 127, and the Circus Tavern, and the Velvet Lady above, and there was another one which is Monaco now, which was a platinum blonde.
What was the club that Chris Hill used to do with
That
you?
was the Gold Mine. So he was at the Gold Mine, and I went to the Gold Mine as well. But then the first residency I got was the Monaco, which was platinum blonde. But so I'd started off. I wanted to be a DJ, but this girl I was going out with, I said, "Look, you could be the go-go dancer, and I'll DJ." And I got the equipment, and I put myself up with the DJ and go-go dance. Well, I got bookings, she didn't. So, and that was the start into it. And then I went from mobiles. My first residency was the Monaco. I can't remember. It wasn't much money. I'd gone from earning a lot of money as a mobile to not a lot as a.
Who taught you how to mix?
I taught myself to mix. Yeah, but. So I did that.
So you started on Citronic decks or Garage decks?
I can't remember. Yeah, probably Garage. And that wasn't mixing. It was all then, when I was at Monaco, there was a band on as well. So you'd go in between the band, and I was doing the comparing as well for, hello. da, 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 da.
I'm getting a bit warm.
I was certainly with comparing and introducing acts and all this business. And, they're all stuff you learn. You learn your ropes, didn't you? I remember having the Minitones there, and they were the guys that used to be in the RTD tour, whatever it was, the little, the two dwarf guys, or Stunted Growth, or whatever. They used to appear down there. So I'd have all these acts and everything. I remember watching Southend Pier burn down. What was it, the Monaco?
No.
Yeah, 77, I'm thinking it was. I remember no one was in the club. Everyone was up at the water edge looking at this smoke, that was that. So at the same time, I put in for a job in a place in Northfleet called Wings, which is part of a pub called the Battle of Britain. And I remember going over and doing the interview, and it had an illuminated, just opened up and had an illuminated dance floor, just like Saturday Night Fever. And I remember starting there with a mate of mine, Steve Wood, rest in peace. And I remember having a dancing competition there on a Tuesday night.
Tell us some of the tracks that you were playing.
Oh, then was Ever Must Be Missing an Angel, Delirium, Francie McGee. Dance, Dance, Dance. Yeah, I was a Freak Out, Chic, they're old classic disco tunes, Yeah. And, I mean, then, I was, at Saturday Night Fever as well. And it was great, because Saturday Night Fever just bolstered, whatever anyone says, love it or hate it, it got everyone back into disco. Got everyone fed up with disco as well, and even the Bee Gees say that, but it got everyone back into disco. Odyssey, Native New Yorker, I mean, there's a track that should never be remixed, so Players Association, just great disco tunes. So from there, while I was there, a girl came up to me and said, and she used to read the licensing things going up, and she went, someone's applied for a license in Dartford for a nightclub, and it used to be a bingo hall, but before that it used to be a cinema. And so I got in there really early, and the guy came down to see me Wings, he went, "You applied for a job for me at when he was at Monaco." When I left the Monaco, and he had another club down there, and there was 3 clubs. So there was the Gold Mine, Monaco, and Bardo's. Bardo's had the nickname of the Flying Bottle. Yeah, you know. So if you couldn't get in the Gold Mine, the next one would be the Monaco, and if you couldn't get in the Gold Monaco, you'd be at. But so you know that wasn't the best place to be. So he gave me the job, and then between this time, I'd also got a job after auditioning at the Gold Mine. Christelle had left and gone to Lacey Lady, and they didn't have a DJ at the Gold Mine, and I auditioned that for a month. 1 month. They had 4 different DJs auditioning. I got that, so I was doing the Wings and the Gold Mine, and then Mike came down and saw me, the owner of Flicks as it was to become, and saw me work, and he went, "Look, you can have the job up there." And I started at Flicks, and Robbie Vincent was doing Thursday with Jeff Young, and I was doing Friday and Saturday, playing similar music. That's when I, really delved totally into soul music, soul and disco.
And at that time, there wasn't that many venues playing black music. It was a very, very specialist thing. And that's what I'm saying, as I was saying before, you guys paved the way for guys like me to have an identity and also to have a connection.
Yeah.
Because there was this growing up in a tough UK in the 60s and the 70s and even in the 80s, and not really knowing where you fitted. And I used to jump out my bedroom window, and I used to go to the Embassy Suite on a Sunday, and I used to watch DJs like Gary Soul, Dave Malone, these Mr. Toast. These were all the guys. Jimmy Dixon.
We love Dave Malone.
Mr. Toast, and these are the guys that we were inspired, because at the same time I was listening to Tony Blackburn when he was on Radio Caroline, and then it was Robbie Vincent that was on Radio 1. And
he was on Radio London, wasn't he, Robbie?
Radio London, that's it. So these were the guys that we were able to go, hang on a minute, there was John Leach on Essex Radio.
He came along a little bit later
on. And then there was Buster Brooker on Radio Orwell. So that's where my catchment area was, Ipswich and obviously Colchester. And then it became very, what I noticed in my writing the biography with my co-writer Dave Jenkins, shouting at Dave Jenkins out, everything happened so quickly. And I think, was that the same for you?
Well, do you know what? It's funny enough, for second name, I was with Oakenfold the other couple of weeks back, and come over, and we was talking about I can remember, I'm lucky, I've had 2 bites at the cherry. I've had the whole soul, funk, and all that scene and Flicks. And do you know what? One of the glass clickers said, at the time, we didn't realise what was happening. He was part of something that was quite special. When you look back at it, you think, wow. And I can remember walking in with Paul, and we were saying, you walk past that queue on a Monday night with our record boxes and extended arms, and he said, God, what we started here, But you kind of took it for granted, but it just how it was. And when you look back,
was in the moment.
You look back at it and think, wow.
Now you look back. I look back and I go,
and like the things you say to me, and it's like Ellis D always credits me for inspiring him, and I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, you was. And it's only recently I've seen that he's put it up and posted and tagged me in it, and I always remember. I remember the 2 people I remember are you and Mickey Finn. Mickey Finn was he was up against the cage like that, staring all the time. But I remember you always used to come up, and you were always. Because normally people are a pest, but you were always so respectful, but you were always passionate. And you could see that, you'd be, what was that tune, blah, blah, blah. And you've always had that humble side to you. And it was like, and I've always said, it was a pleasure talking to you, because you'd be like, that desire of, what was that track? What was that one you played? And, and I remember Mickey Finn used to think I played everything at +8. I didn't, but there was this myth that went around. Everything he plays is +8, but sometimes you have to be +8 to get it into that one, to get it down to that one. So, Yeah, so I do. I remember the two people I remember are you and Mickey Finn more than anything.
It changed our lives because we were the new kids on the block, and I remember standing there with my friend, bless him, R.I.P. Johnny Holmes, and we used to get like 10 of us to go up on a Monday. And we'd get there about 10 or half 10 because you had to queue to get in.
Yeah.
But by the time you got in, and it used to finish at 4, didn't it?
Three,
that's it.
Yeah.
So, and I used to finish, go straight back home, have a wash and go work.
That's what
I'd be smashed. And all my pals, whatever they were doing, they'd still make it to work. But I was like, and that experience of just hearing the sound, because it was one of the best sound systems in London.
Turbo sound rig.
You know, like it was that turbo used to hit you in your chest. And I just used to think, I used to come out there and I just used to look at you guys and I used to think, that is hopefully going to be me one day. And I listened to you, Johnny Walker, Cole Cox, Oki.
Yeah.
I think Bob Jones played up there. I think Tongy had played up there a few times. Trevor. There was Alex P.
I don't think Alex P did Heaven. I recall.
He done Rage.
He took over Legends after me.
But these are the guys that I watched, whether it was Spectrum, Land of Oz, or Rage. There was a colourful kind of talent. There was Dominic Spreadlove as well. He used to do Rage, and really and truly, this was the groundbreaking scene that would later go on to a Thursday for Fabio and Groove Rider. And they 88, 89, 91, 92, that massive explosion of jungle drum and bass. But I just want to take you back because coming out of the soul scene and playing records and doing what you're doing, you are now like playing in London, playing in Ibiza, and going on tour with people like you too.
That was 93, but I mean what happened was at the same time it was Oki again. Oki had done that for me and then he phoned me up. It was funny because he forgets all this. He said, how do you remember all this? So don't drink anymore. So he phoned me up. He went, I've got a gig for you. So I can't do it anymore. He was getting really busy because of the Mondays. He went, he said, it's Legends on a Monday night. He said, it's Club Trick. I went, okay. He went, yes, I can't do it anymore. He said, whatever it was, I'll get you 100 quid on it, blah, 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 blah. The guy called Paul Dennis was doing it. And so I went up there and there was a guy before me called, I don't know his name, Scottish Jerry, obviously, DJ'd, and he was playing all the stuff that I would have kind of played back in Flick stage. You know when someone's getting value out of a record box, you think, he's playing all the good tunes of some music he's got. And it wasn't just soul or disco or whatever. So then I'd gone after him, do the same thing as I was doing, and it was really quiet. And in my head, I'm thinking, I know why Oki's giving us this. It's going to go. I'm going to be. After 4 weeks, and bearing in mind, I'm also doing a gig now with Bob Jones in Southend called Club Art. That's packed. Absolutely packed. It was like, no one knew it. Really, really clever. And so I'm doing this gig and I'm sitting at the bar at the end of the night and Paul Dennis is there beside me and he went, well, make the most of it next week. That's why I said, he went, I think it's going to be our last one. I said, why is that? He went, you saw what it's like tonight. I went, yeah, so what do you want to do? So he went, ain't busy enough. So I said, do you want me to help? I can't believe the arrogance. He went, well, what can you do? I went, how busy do you want it? He went, ooh. So I told it to the Southend crowd, which we had a really big following. Southend made Legends happen. The next night, the next Saturday, it was cute. And I always remember you have a guy on the door, a guy by the name of Angel, who was it was the classiest doorman I'd ever met, apart from Barry. And he was just a proper style guru as well. And I can remember him coming over to me, and there's a friend of mine that turned up, Mark Berman. And of course, he's in, I mean, you don't remember, there's all the day glow and the floats and everything. And he's outside with his yellow top and his day glow shorts on, and Angel's come over and went, Cole, he says the friends of yours. And I was like, I said, he is. And Mark was going, I'm really sorry, I didn't realise, because if you knew Legends, it was such a...
It was a very classy,
dressy, you know.
You'd be going in suited and booted,
And Mark going, I'm really sorry, and I just go, well, I'll let it go. But basically, is he really with you? It's like, yeah, just this time. And that was it. From that day on, it went through the roof. Legends.
There was Legends, there was Residencies, there was a few places.
Residencies was, yeah. But yeah, there was...
But the main place was Legends. I remember warming up for Paul Trouble Anderson over there.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a good few years, or maybe around the same time, 92, 93, coming out of 88, because it seemed to start changing.
I think 88, 89, 90, 91, I noticed a lot of different types of... And stuff was coming up that I didn't know, because there was a time with the Balearic scene when it was just good. You know, he played it because it was good. You know, there was, some of the Italio sort of stuff. It didn't matter. Yeah, all of that. You played it, and some stuff that was a bit off key, you'd still play it, even if it was a bit down tempo, like Stories. But then suddenly there was this stuff. People are going, "Have you got any two-step?" And if you got, and I was like, I don't know what that is. You know, and then they were asking for hardcore. I'd started working in Quaff Records on a Saturday with Roy the Roach, and kids would come in and you play them a record, and I go, what, do you like that? And they go, yeah. And you could see they were kind of happy that they liked it and I didn't, you know, because it was something.
There was a big change.
The only time my daughter and I disagreed on music, and we'd drive back and she go, do you like so and so? Yeah, I like that. And then one day we'd drive and she went, so Dad, do you like jungle? I went, nah, what about you? She went, I love it. And I went, really? So she went, oh, yeah. And up to that point, I thought people who like jungle were all into speed, you know, and drum and bass. I just couldn't make that leap. It was a bit, to me, it was a bit like hip hop. I couldn't understand it, and didn't want to fake it and pretend to like it. You know, some people do with music, but and jungle was the same. I was like, no, it's not, you know. And sometimes I go to rage, and I thought, no, I'm uncomfortable with that. You know,
but that's good because you stuck to what you love, and
exactly.
I think you can tell. There's a lot of DJs, even when we go on now, that you can tell that it's just they're doing it by a numbers game. Yeah. And if I ever get like that, I'll hang my headphones up because I don't want to play like that.
No, that's
I want to play like how you play with all the passion and feel it in my heart. And I think the day that happens, I actually have to hang up my headphones and go, I can't play this anymore. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. Do you know we did an oldies night at the Oldie did an oldie night. Ian Paul did a back to 89 night at the Ministry once. And we got on there and we're playing and everything. And halfway through, he came out and we went, I ain't enjoying this. And I went, no, you know why? Well, I said, because we love playing new music. And even now, you know, with great respect, sometimes get booked for an oldies night and I'll do it. You know, sometimes get booked for a flicks night and I'll do that. But I haven't got the passion. I still love playing new music. It was always, I said to Paul the other week when we was together, I said, we were always about new music.
But I think when you're an innovator, you don't live in the past.
No.
You go forward.
No, you're the same, aren't you?
100%. I'm always evolving. Yeah, like,
exactly.
I can't change what I did 10 years ago. I'm grateful for it.
Or you become that rock and roller who's got the DA and the drape coat on and goes, it'll never be as good as it was. But do you know what I mean?
I don't want that. I want to change as long as I can understand it, and as long as I can put my own version on it as a producer, then that's what I feel would be good.
Cool.
Blimey, it's going. Time's ticking on, and I can't even see the live chat, Dorian. So I don't know if we're going to go back to the old Facebook, and then I can see that on the feed. Maybe we're going to do that later on.
Any stories about fledgling producers?
Hold on. Oh, so was there anybody that you well, you talked about Alternate there. Was there? No, but I mean, at one point, people were bringing you music like that. You'd go. People would I see people bringing white labels to Rage. Sorry, on a Monday to Spectrum, and giving it to you.
I had the first one, and I didn't even know this. I put something up. I know it's a really commercial record, and everyone got really sick of it. But one of my favourite house records is Where Love Lives. And it's a Knuckles. It's a Knuckles mix. And I used to play...
Listen, that's a banging tune.
Yeah, but I used to... a lot of people, it's their most hated... A bit like Korea, so overplayed. But I used to play the instrumental with the dub plate, which is lots of strings, and then go, obviously, another copy and go into the vocal. And I remember putting something up about it once, and the girl went, yeah, you was the first to have it. I went, right, how did you know that? She went, I'm the person that gave it to you at heaven. She passed it over. But it was one of those tunes. I just loved that. It's the joy of mixing in it, where you can play that instrumental, other tunes, and underneath something else is coming. Dun 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 dun.
And it's got that soulful vibes about it.
No, it was Knuckles in it, But the other thing was.
Did you get to play in America?
Yeah. I'll tell that in a minute. But what I was going to, that was the same time Paul said to me, when I've got a gig for you in, these people want you to play in a place called the Palladium. And the Palladium was where they actually filmed MTV. So when you went into the club, it was really kind of surreal, because part of the club was blocked off, but it had all the props for MTV, these big square boxes and whatever they used. And and I can remember playing there that night, and they picked me up from there, and put me in this designer hotel. This is one night, picked me up on the Friday and playing Saturday and then home Sunday. And I can remember still playing at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was just like, oh, come on. There was 3 people still dancing, and 2 of those people were out of delight. The guy with the...
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, it's really nice. Oh, we should just go on. The last couple dancing. And then they liked it so much, they got me back the next week. And I think for one reason or other, I think I blew it the next week. But it could have been a Residency, one of those, sliding door moments where I probably messed it up for myself. So, done New York a couple of times. But
how do you realise how many people's lives you've actually changed, or was it kind of a blip in a memory of you were in the moment, and then suddenly it's like 10 years have gone, and then
it's only later that it's changed. And I'm going to tell the story, because I can remember. I
don't want to interrupt you, but I'm going to, because I wanted to ask you about Dr. Bob Jones, because every time I saw you in heaven, he was your
Bob Jones knew more about house music. I mean, they called him Dr. Bob.
You two were always together. Always.
We were living together.
Right.
I broke up with my wife, and I'd moved in. Oh, this is mad. So I moved in. I was living with my mate in Dartford for a while, and then finally Bob said, look, no one here, come over, we've got a spare room. So I moved with Bob Jones, me and Bob, in a place which was a cottage, called The Cottage. And then I remember Bob saying to me once, he went, Chad, just found out something. So what's that? He said, well, cottaging is a term. He said, it's gays. I went, oh yeah. He said, well, look, me and you, 2 blokes, living together in a cottage, in a place called The Cottage. I mean, it's not looking good. so yeah, but I would be with him. He would tell me stuff. I mean, he always knew his stuff about soul and funk. He's a legend, memory man. But he'd tell me stuff about house music, and I'd be like, do you know this? He's a reader. He reads and knows, and he'd go, oh, that's so-and-so. He used to be with
Dr. Bob Jones.
Yeah, so it was great. So he would come up with me. Me and my mate Nobby used to drive, and Bob would be with us, and he loved it. Bob Jones, I made a record called Mental, that you know about. Bob Jones.
Going back,
Bob Jones is in the video.
Is he really?
Yes, in the
I've got to see that.
No, Bob Jones. You go and click Manic MC's Mental, and I had, like they have Bez, the dancer in the Happy Mondays. Bob Jones was telling me all about Bez, and went, you can be our dancer. So Bob Jones has got a ponytail on, Well, we've all got ponytails. I've got a ponytail in it as well. And I'm doing all this. And Bob Jones is going past like this, dancing. And every time I post it, Jones is going, thanks for that, Cole.
But going back, and not a lot of people will know, or maybe if you were from that era, you would realise, a lot of the house music was coming from the gay clubs in New York and coming over and was in Ibiza. And that was really the structure of when everyone was popping what they were popping, the Summer of Love, 88.
Yeah.
It really did bring people together,
Yeah.
whether you was white, black, brown, Asian, a doctor, straight, gay.
Yeah.
There was no discrepancies of who you were. It was just everybody was together. Do you know what I mean?
There was a time my friend walked into, I think it's
because there was a lot of stigma before that.
No,
and
a friend of mine come into Legends once and he went, it's going to kick off tonight. I said, why is that? It's a firm here from Chelsea. He said, I know it's going to kick off. He come over to me an hour later, he went, I can't believe it. He said, so just come up there. He said, I'm wondering if he's going to give me a slap. He says, put his arms around me and told me he loves me.
But what I'm saying is that in itself, culturally, I think changed the whole music industry to
it took violence off the
without a doubt,
out of the
because
stands in the football, you know.
Yeah, because people then it was the first time that you'd seen couples integrate. 88, 89. And before that, like I'm going back to my mum's and dad's age, it was very rare that you would see a coloured couple together, white and black and white and brown. And there was a lot of stigma towards that. So again, you guys were very responsible for, again, a massive culture change, which would then carry on 4 years later, 88, so 88, 89, 91, 92. Yeah. 92 is really when we started to come through and graduate to get to 93, 94, which was our golden years, like it was for you, 88. So I wanted to name check some DJs. There was Paul Trouble Anderson, God bless him, R.I.P. There was
Colin Favour.
Fat
Tony.
Yeah, Fat Tony.
Tony's still, you know.
Trevor Fung, Trevor's brother. There was also Lyndon C. There was a few other guys I remember. HMS, Colin Dale.
Yeah.
I was resident with him at Slime Time because we used to do Slime Time. What's the club round the corner from Heaven?
Limelight.
Soundshaft. So we used to do that, I think, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Oki used to do Future in there, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah. What that energy that you got from playing to the crowd, can you describe that to us? Because I know what it felt like on the dance floor, but how did you feel when you were up there?
Do you know what? It's a really weird thing, and part of me wishes I'd embraced it more because I just used to look at, all I used to do was look at the floor and make sure that I used to pick an empty spot and I'd want that to be busy, you know, that and
so you still had the mentality of playing at Flicks is like, I'm going to make sure that I keep the floor.
I want to keep the floor.
It's
all about
keeping the floor.
And give them both their due. That was the only two DJs that used to say that to me was Fungy and Oki was reading the floor. Because a lot of people just, you know, how many DJs go out there now and they play something and they've got their set all worked out, and if it doesn't work, what do they do? I mean, my whole thing was when I was mixing, try and mix anything, you know, and if it didn't mix, try even harder to mix that in. And that was the fun of it. I've got to tell you the funny story when I was at Heaven, because, you know, I used to be on a crossfade all the time then. I wasn't one of those. I was like bang, 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 bang. And so it was a Rain mixer. It's the same ones they used to have in Paradise Garage at the time. And I remember the third time I went in there one day on a Monday, and there was the two guys that were in there. And he got the sound engineer, he came up, he went, Colin, we love what you do. He said, but that's the third time we've changed the crossfade slider. He said, I'm going to give you this. It was metal fatigued. I've got it indoors, I should have bought it. And there's a lug used to break off where I used to slam it every time and it would metal fatigue it. He said how much it costs him. He said, every time, he said, we have to strip it down, we have to put a new crossfader in. He went, please, can you try and be a little bit more gentle with it? I've actually got the crossfade. I keep it, you know, and you can see the lugs broken off of it.
I mean, I've had some of the most amazing nights just as a young DJ, and to me, any DJ should go and listen and be on the dance floor. And most of the people that have done testimonials that were coming into Jungle, who had come to see me play when we were already, because people forget that we were like established house DJs. Just after you guys, we'd come straight through, you know, and we were all playing at Astoria. We were playing for the Crazy Club. There was Weekend World. There was so many of these warehouse and outdoor raves, but then it kind of fizzled out for you. Like you went on tour with U2. That was 93.
Yeah, that was 93. That was another one. Okie phoned me up. He's always Okie to go, I've got a gig for you. And I like, what's that? He went, well, I can't tell you much about it at the moment. He said, but we're going to be working all through summer. He said, I can't do all the gigs. He said, I'm going to share them with you. He said, and you'll be playing between 30,000 and 120,000 people. And he said, I'll tell you more about it tomorrow. I put the phone up, thought, someone's got a big scene going abroad, you know. And I'm looking through, it wasn't Facebook, I'm trying to look through Disco Mag and all that. Who's got something going on, you know, some event sort of thing. And yeah, and I was with this partner at the time, was a girl called Julia, and she was like, I'm trying to think, Chud, you know, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he rang me next day when... he said, right, I'll let you know what it is. He said, we're performing with U2. He said, and I don't want you to be spooked because there's ways of dealing with it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't even know most of their records. I know a couple. The mate of mine, by this time, I was living with another mate of mine in Grays, Bill Locke, and he went, here's your homework. He's given me this album of U2 to listen to. And then Paul said to me, you've got to have an interview with someone to see if you're people like us. And a guy called Finton Fitzgerald, obviously Irish, had an interview with me and, you know, to see what I was about. Obviously I can't, you know, with a major band. And that was it, you know, they accepted me to go on there. And next thing, me and Paul was going down to, you know, I don't know if you know, by the M1, there's these big aircraft hangars, and it's where they built R101 and R... You know, the air balloon things, massive things, great big doors on the front. And they were practising setting up stage there for U2. And you know, riggers were practising how quick they could put it up, take it down, put it up, put it down before they went out on Zooropa, as it was. So that was it. Yeah, we did Zooropa. I did 20 dates and Paul did 20. And it was mad, you know, there we are, you know, police escorts and... I walked off stage as who did Walk on the Wild Side? Lou Reed. As I walked off stage, Lou Reed was going on, and I can remember there was stereo MCs were appearing. They had the backing girls there, and in Cologne, because we'd have names on the door, dressing rooms. We had dressing rooms, you know. Colin Hudd, Zooropa. As I come out of my dressing room, Lou Reed, and I was standing there, you know, when you have a moment, 'cause I'm still a fan of all of it, you know. And I looked there and I was like, it's Lou Reed. It's Lou Reed. And this girl's come walking past, one of the girls from backing singers. She went, what are you looking at? I went, it's Lou Reed, isn't it? She went, who's that then? No, but she was a young girl, you know. It's just like people don't know who's Colin Hudd, you know. More people, all my people I speak to, young people, when I say Ray Keefe, go, you know Ray Keefe? My daughter was mad. When she come along at my 65th, my daughter's blown away. She went, Ray Keefe, I went, what do you know him? She went, I've heard of him. I said, I like his music. And I'm like,
but this is the travesty of what I'm saying to you, right? And sometimes it hurts me, and it hurts all of us, is people just think that, we've been around for 30 years, but before us, there was you guys.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for you guys putting this I can't actually describe it any more passionately than what I'm saying is, if there was no you, there'd be no us. And you really did the groundwork, like I said, playing black music, playing gay music, kicking down the doors, of oppression, coming through Thatcherism. It was a tough time to be working class.
Yeah.
But we had this solidarity, and the solidarity was music, and
Yes.
and it was breaking down the boundaries. And one of the things that I feel is, if I'm a present DJ, i.e. I came from analog into digital, I've been able to adapt. But for you guys, it was such a big change. I mean, you do it now. But who would have even thought that we'd be playing CDs, that we'd be playing USBs or airdropping off of your phone? One of my artists came around my house the other day and went, "Yeah, Ray, I'll just airdrop it to you." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to airdrop it onto your Mac." And I was like, "Okay, cool." But you don't foresee that change, even when you had, going back to when you had that tune Mental, that was such a massive underground tune, just like the Shaman with Mr. C. It was fighting the system, and everybody was going mental at that point.
That was the thing, because it was funny, because me and Oakley were both trying to make tunes then. I can remember, because he was obviously more ahead of the game than me.
He had Perfecto.
And but I remember being there on a Monday night, and he went, "So I've made a new tune." I went, "So have I." He went, "What's it called?" I went, "Mental." He went, "That's what mine's called." I went, I won't swear. "Oh, get away." I said, "Look," I said, "You've had loads of things come." I said, you can't do this. I've got it all." Because what had happened, I was working with this guy, rest in peace, Erskine Thompson, who got in touch with me and went, "There is no finer time than hello, Jim Tobin." He said, "No finer time for you to make a record," he said, "than now." And this is 88. So I'd heard this record came through, and it was a rip-off, as you probably know. It was Hypnosis by Droid, and they'd used the Georgia Moroder in the background of it. And I turned around and went, "Look, no one's on this. We could do something with this." So we recreated it with a guy called Richard Cottle, and went in the studio with that, and a guy called Paul Borg, who I ended up making Audio Deluxe with. We went in there and beefed it up and everything, and Morgan's going, "You need it called something." And of course, at the time, when I used to mix on the Crossfade, when I'd go really silly, it would sometimes, I mean, that's crazy when I think back, it would sometimes engineer mental, and they would be chanting mental as I was mixing. And I'll phone him up, I've got it. I said, "There's a new chant coming out called Mental. We call it Mental." So he did that. We multi-tracked it, had mental, and all of that business on it. Went to make the video of it, which Bob Jones is on, and we would. Morgan was trying to lease it to either Eddie Gordon or Pete Tong. They were both after it, and by the time it actually got out, he went to Eddie Gordon. Just at the time when it came out, Pete Tong signed
French Kiss.
Yeah, French Kiss, and it just killed it. So we went up to 20. We went up higher than that. But then what happened back in the days? God bless him, Erskine Thompson had gone out and bought quite a few copies of it, and we got weighted. Which, in the business, if it's a bit unbalanced in certain areas, they'll penalise you and drop it down. And he'd bought up a certain amount in a shop, and we got penalised. So we went in at 28, I think, and next week's 29. So, and then of course French Kiss come out, and that was the new flavour. Not only that, just at that time was just going bad on the press, where I remember looking at the telly and there's a police van being rocked, and they're all chanting mental, and I was like, "Oh God, no!" So now it's become the nasty part of it. It looked like the nasty part. Mental, trying to push over a police wagon. So there you go.
You've had an illustrious career.
I've had fun. I've also made the seminal Blerick tune, 60 Seconds, and that came from Barry on Spectrum. It's a great story. When we were doing Spectrum up, and we used to put tapes on while we were going up there. And Barry he used to be on the door at Spectrum. People that went there, original people like Steve Altman, that were there, we all know Barry, and you remember Barry. So he was on the door for us up there. On the way back, he was playing all this music, and it was he played a bit of Suspiria and all different. He called it acid opera, And one bit of music came on, and I went, and it was Suspiria. And I went, I didn't know. I didn't. This is that music from A Few Dollars More, isn't it? When they opened the watch. He went, no, this is Suspiria. I know what you mean, no, blah, blah, blah. And with that, I went to a guy called Morgan King and said about it. And he went, oh, that's with these keyboard riffs and everything, which went on to be what I did with Paul Gazilda Deluxe, 60 Seconds. And yeah, one housey, very downbeat. And it's the seminal sort of Balearic tune.
You managed to be at the right place at the right time, and come at the end of that tour, 93, you kind of stepped out of music, or gradually stepped out of music?
I slowly became an alcoholic. I didn't step out of music. I think that music stepped out of me. I was becoming unreliable. I not discovered alcohol. I turned to alcohol to cover me not being able to deal with a divorce particularly well. And I was sort of honing my skills as an alcoholic, which I'm fortunate to say I'm a recovering alcoholic these days. But and of course by 1999, I was in the rooms of a certain recovery section, which will remain anonymous. But there's a strange thing, because a few years later I'd moved to Thailand and I sort of hung up my sleeve, you know what I'm going to say? I'd hung up my slip mats and I thought, you know what? I've got to stop rainbow chasing, because maybe I should just try and retire gracefully. And I met a young lady. I was living in Thailand, a place called Koh Samui. And I can remember walking through the town one day and there's a sign saying, tonight, Ray Keith. And I went, I think I know him. I'm sure it's got to be the same one, Ray Keith. And so I come out with this girl, made sure I was there, and I walked in. I remember walking and seeing her. I've gone, Ray, and you've gone.
What the hell are you doing here?
Kind of.
I was so shocked. I actually stopped. I put a long extended record on, and I was like, "What are you doing here, Colin?" And he was like, "I'm out here teaching English," and I was like, and my face was like, "What? You need to get your ass back to England. We've got shit to do." And it wasn't soon after that you were back.
Well, I moved back here, and it was funny because I got married to a girl out there, and and we moved over. I moved back over here, and a guy called Al DeMello, you've met, asked me to do a Flicks reunion. And it's funny because a few years later, he said to me, "When you are now at the level next," I was rusty as whatever, it's just very clunky. All the mixing skills weren't honed like they were. I remember a few years later, Al said to me, "When you're actually back at the level now, I remembered you when you stopped." He said, "So I'll be honest, you was pretty rusty when I started using you again." And we started doing the Flicks reunions once a year, and we just had to cancel another one.
Big shout out to Ardil,
Rashid, and Al DeMello, yeah.
They've looked after
and also a guy
You've had some good people around.
Yeah, and Ian Sellers. Ian Sellers was a mad one. Ian Sellers had a disco shop across the road from where I live in Grays, and I'd gone over there to get something, a bit of equipment for it. And he turned around and he went, so I come back. I walked over the next day and he went, "Oh, you won't believe it. It's your ears must be in." "What's that?" He said, "You left here." He said, "A bloke come in." He said, "He's called Al DeMello." He walked in, he said he turned around and was getting something. He went, "Don't ever see a bloke called Colin Hudd, do you?" I mean, he's just walked out the door. So he got us in touch with each other to do the Flicks reunion. So that's why that all come back together.
How long have you been a recovering alcoholic, if you don't mind me asking?
1999, I got into the rooms. Yeah. And it doesn't seem a day too long. Probably the best thing I've ever done.
If I wanted to ask you as well, would you change anything?
It's really weird, isn't it? We were talking about this the other day. I've got married again recently, third time lucky, to a girl called Keely, and people, her mum says, "Oh, I wish you'd have met years before." And we're going, "Do you know what? We met at this point in our lives when all of that's behind both of us. So is it right that it should just be how it was, I mean, look, most of my friends become millionaires and, multi-award winners, I messed up. But do you know what? I sucked that up and I own it. I've got the best relationship ever with my daughter. I've got a wonderful lady now in my life. You met Keely, who's at my wedding.
Yes, I was. Thank you very much.
And massive respect out there to Wayne, who tried to get his photo taken with you.
So I went to his wedding, and this geezer come up to me, went, "You Ray Keith?" I went, "Yeah." And he went, "Can I have a photo?" I went, "No, mate." I said, "I'm at my pal's wedding reception. It's not about me." And he kind of looked at me as if to say, "What?"
Yeah.
And then I was like, "No, I'm not being disrespectful, but it's not my day today." I said, "Catch me in a club, catch me outside anytime." But there's people in your life, Colin, that. And I'm going to ask you this question, and I know we've actually been talking for about an hour, actually 55 minutes, because we started at 5 past. But this is my chance to document things with you, because I think that it's really important that a legacy is left, even though we have our legacy. I've managed to write a book. You did the foreword for my book. I actually cried when I read it with my daughter for the first time.
Oh, bless you, darling.
The first copy arrived at my house, and I was so choked. And actually, I did a post on Instagram, and I think what it is when you read the book, hopefully, like yourself, it's a book of inspiration, because some people do go past you and they have it all, and sometimes you're left thinking, what if, what when?
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Saddest book ever written.
But what I'm saying to you is your health is your wealth.
Yeah.
For me personally, because I've had my own struggles, and also happiness is the key, because the happier you are, I mean, I'm not even coming on the decks today. I just want to watch you play, because it just reminds me. I said to him off camera, I was like, "Are you sure? Are you all right to play for an hour?" Because I was going to jump on, but I don't even want to jump on, because he's like the master. Like what can you what he everything I know, and I know that we were on the tape packs, and thousands of people bought those tape packs, and they listened to them. And that chopping, which I used to do, came from you, because that was, and then there was lots of things that came after that. There was the double dropping, which Andy C and Mampy Swift and Randall. These guys would go on to own that type of making two records sound as one. But even listening to Mr. C and Evil Eddie Richards, Kid Bachelor, it was just Paul Trouble Anderson. It was on a next level of like music education, that I would soak it up, and I would like, how the hell do they fit that with that? But it was telling a story, and it doesn't, you play from the heart, like I play from the heart. I don't practice my set.
No, I don't.
I'll go there and I'll watch the floor, and that's how it's got to be. Who was your DJ that inspired you, that when you were growing up and you looked up and you went, I fancy a piece of this?
There were two guys, and they were talking DJs, and sadly they're both passed now. One was a guy called Steve Wood. His real name was Ian Woodward. Had Woodwards in Grays, a clothes shop. But he would be at the Velvet Lady, which is above Circus Tavern, and he was one of these people just firing all in. I used to nick some of his lines. He was one of those, it came naturally to say things, the stuff like this. They're doing it for Dance of the Virgins, they're doing it from memory, blah, blah, blah. All those little one-liners that you'd have to interact with the crowd back then. And the other guy was a guy who used to work at Sweeney's, was a guy called Terry Ray. His wife came to the wedding. He passed away last year, very sadly, and he was another one. He had Sweeney's in Basildon, and they were not musically, but in personality-wise, as an entertainment factor. They had something that I had to work. I had to work hard on that bit. It's all right with the music. I would say in some ways I might have been better with the music knowledge than they heard, but they had something that I had to work on, the personality side of it. Yeah, so they were the two people I looked up to.
I used to watch Jimmy Dixon and Ian Jerry, and they were very confident on the mic.
Yeah.
They kind of had that Bobby Vincent sexy voice, kind of like, and I'd be like, these guys, they sound the nuts. Do you know what I mean? And the presentation was always amazing. Actually, I have got something for you, because I brought it down with me. This is it. Live on camera. This is the Blueprint special. And actually, Colin kindly, when I asked him, he did the foreword for me.
Dearest Colin Hudd, my good friend, thank you for the inspiration I love you and loved watching you in heaven. Love always, Ray. Oh, look, and there's in forward by Colin Hudd. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Come here.
What?
Come here, you.
Geezer, you know. If it wasn't for, like, seriously, it wasn't just, you know, what you guys did. We managed to take it to another level, and I can't thank you enough for that, because I always think I'm so passionate and I love the music. We've helped a lot of people.
Someone's going to get this bag as a present, you know.
You're so
recycle.
Yeah, of course. I did the same thing. My kids are. My kids are saying, I unwrap my presents quite carefully sometimes, because I'm always wanting to recycle. No, it's been an absolute pleasure for you to help, and also to document. You know, I mean, as we said, memories sometimes get faded, and we're not always. We're not always like, you know, like, you can't remember everyone and everything. No. But if you can get a majority of it down, I mean, now the next thing for me, after doing the Dark Soldier book, I'm going to do a documentary which we've shot already 6 hours of footage, and that's called Dread at the Controls. And I want to leave a legacy that people know where we came from, not just how we got here, like Jungle Drum and Bass is here, but what was before that, and what was before that, and what was, and how do all of those dots connect? Because this is what, and how it's pushed it forward, even to the new generation now. Do you know what I mean? Of what's going on. What does the future hold for you now?
Do you know? I don't know. I've got a radio show I was doing on Stomp, which I did my last one last Saturday, because. And people are going, oh, he's retired. I said, no, I haven't retired. I just want me Saturdays back. You know, I was just talking to Dorian earlier. It was 4 o'clock till 7. You know, and Keely finishes work at 3. Not that it's all about Keely, but, you know, she finishes work at 3. You know, I was driving home to do my show and then finishing at 7. And it was just like, and even Scott, who runs the radio show, he said, like, I totally get it. I totally get
Maybe
it.
you could pre-record in the week.
I could do, you know, look,
but you like that live.
We're talking, I like the live thing, you know, that's, the only thing I've always missed, you know, is a crowd. I mean, I don't know how you do it every week, you know, part of me is like, I want to see people, I love looking at an empty bit of floor and trying to fill that bit up, you know, to just stand there with a microphone mixing. It's all right, but I like to see the feedback, because that's all I knew.
Yeah, you come from that culture, you know? Yeah, like 3 people on the dance floor, and the next minute it's... I did it a couple of weeks ago. I was playing in Bristol. They put me in a side room. There was like 3 people on the dance floor, and then half an hour later there was 200 people on there. But because you're building the floor, and you don't mind starting from scratch. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
I just want to say how grateful we are to artists and DJs like you, who have helped pave the way for people like myself. Not just me, you know, anybody you speak to from Essex, Colchester, London. You know, I've seen you play at Heaven. I've seen you play at the Tartan House. I've seen you play Mangled. I've seen you play at...
You've seen me mangled.
I've seen you be mangled. Yeah, but the thing about it is, like... any youngster coming into this, they don't teach you about fame. They don't teach you about drugs. They don't teach you about addiction. They don't see the depression of being on tour and playing to 120,000 people and then being isolated in your room, left to your own devices for 2 or 3 days. You're home alone. Your family suffer. There's breakups. There's not that many makeups. It's a selfish thing what we do, but it costs us a lot.
Yeah.
And it's and you've got to be dedicated. I mean, I'm over half a century now. I'm not going to go into the exact figure, but what I'm saying is I still love what I do, but I do see it changing. There's certain things I don't like now. As you get older, you start to turn to different things, you know. And I think it's all about, if you can bow out gracefully and also embrace change. I mean, I'm still going to keep going until we keep going. I don't know when that... Until I fall out of love of it, and then some other door will open, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. But I just wanted to, on a personal note, and through a lot of my other friends and peers, we could be talking for hours, you know that. We've gone right over, like, I want to listen to you play some music, because that just brings back so many memories for me. So if you wouldn't mind gracing the decks,
I don't mind. And I know. I thank you for this today, Ray, because as you know.
Colin had some really bad news last week. Unfortunately, am I? Are you all right?
Of course.
Colin's brother passed away last week, and he messaged me. We always keep in contact. We always talk. We always shout at each other, make sure we're okay. And so, thank you very much for coming on, because I know that it's heartbreaking, especially when it comes out of the blue. But again, it's adversity, and it's how you deal with it.
Exactly.
And I'm glad we've been able to keep you focused on something
Yeah,
else.
I know, and I appreciate that, because you said to me, I hope it's not too soon. It might do you a favour, and it has. It's taken me away. Sometimes it's it's about getting away from
Colin,
self.
we love you, brother. I can't tell you how much you mean to us, and I'm so happy that we're all still part of the journey. We're going to set up right now. I'm going to let Colin get settled in. I'm going to take the mic. I'm not even going to play any music. I am just going to move these chairs out of the way, and we are going to get set up to play some music.